and he came over with a tray, and it had like 12 shots on it for our table.
And I saw you told a story about, a preseason tour in Croatia with Big Sam Allardyce, taking whole team out for a night out. But I'm curious about someone like Big Sam, who I grew up with in the late 2000s as, a staple Premier League manager. I'm curious his style compared to some of the continental managers you had, man manager versus tactician versus all of that. You know, what made him so special? Because he was always a working manager at the top level, at England's top tier.
Yeah, I think one of the things when I was at Blackburn and Sam came into the football club, we were third from bottom at the time. And I remember when the chairman, the then chairman John Williams, called me and he said, "Listen, we're going to appoint Sam Allardyce as manager." And I was like, "Really? Just going to play long ball? Is that why we're going to get out of trouble?" And he was like, "No, no, wait till you meet him." And he said, "You'll be impressed." He said, "He wasn't my first choice." He said, "But when I sat in the room with him, I was like, he's now my first choice." And I remember there was me, Andre Uya, who was a Dutch international, Vince Grella, who was an Australian international. We all walked into this meeting. We were like, with Sam Allardyce on the first day, thinking, not in, like, this is going to be so difficult this season. We're just going to play long ball. We all walked out the meeting. We were like, can't wait to play this guy. Cannot wait for this game at the weekend. He broke the game down and simplified it and made it very simple. It was never an element of we play long ball. We just don't play in the wrong areas and we don't make mistakes in the wrong areas. And I was like, right, okay, get that. I want you to play. He broke the pitch up into thirds. Defensive areas, no risk. Middle areas, you can take little risks. Top end, do what you want. Express yourselves, have fun. And we just felt so organised and so confident going into games. But Sam could always give a team talk, which was you were itching to get on the pitch. You were fighting to get off your seat and ready to go and play a game. He had this ability to deliver an incredible team talk. But what he was more than anything for me was he was honest. If you didn't play well and you didn't do something he didn't like, he told you. So you always knew where you stood with him. You could walk in one day and you'd know exactly where you stood with Sam because he'd tell you, "You're not doing well enough. You're not playing well enough for me. I need more from you. You've been brilliant this weekend. Absolutely loved what you did. More of the same." And that was what a manager, players always want from the manager. Not a manager where you walk in and it's like, "I've got no idea where I stand with this guy." And you're sort of tiptoeing around him, worried about what he thinks about you. Sam just had that ability to make you feel 10 feet tall. And that was his job, and that was his man management style, was to get you on the pitch feeling like you could do anything that he asked you to do. Away from the pitch, when we went socially and we had the nights out and things like that, he was just great. I mean, some of the stories you hear from warm weather training camps from different teams and the trips to Dubai, it is a team building exercise, and he realised that. I remember years ago when he first come into the football club, we got beat when I was at Blackburn, and he came in. I was at a charity event. It was Kenny Dalglish's wife's charity, the Marina Dalglish Foundation, and we were at an event then, and he came and sat on the table where I was with my ex-wife and all her family and friends, and he came over with a tray, and it had like 12 shots on it for our table. It had a bottle of wine and a few other drinks, and he was like, "I'm just going to talk." He was like, "Lovely to meet you all." Everyone cheersed and whatever, had a drink. And he was like, "If you don't mind, I just need to talk work for a few minutes with Stephen." So we just sat there talking about the game and what needed to improve and things like that. And then he was like, "Right, get ready for Monday. We're going to go and attack this and we're going to have a good go at it." But it was just done in such a way. I was like, what a top guy. And everyone who was on the table that night was like, absolutely love him. I can see why you love him so much, and I can see why you want to play with him. And at the moment, I'm doing my own podcast, and one of the guys who's on the podcast, or who's my co-presenter on it, Adrian Lamb, we talk so much about Sam because he talks about it from a staff perspective, where his ability to get the staff on side as well and be that man manager with staff, but know that how important his staff were behind the scenes to create an atmosphere within a football club to get the team at their very best is just so underrated. But he created an incredible atmosphere and an incredible environment around the football club. So yeah, there's plenty of stories about Sam. I could wax lyrical about him for a long time, but yeah, he's people call him old school, but he was way ahead of his time in terms of sports science, in terms of stats and what was being pumped out. Yeah, massively influential, not only on my career, but on many others, but also on new managers coming through, that he was ahead of his time.
Yeah, you mentioned that he was known as a long baller and all of that, but he did foster some really fantastic creative players. I mean, I always think of Morten Gamst Pedersen, who's now become they say a streets don't forget Barclays man, where when I first started watching, I always loved his game. And, Big Sam, he made it possible for him he gave him a platform to do his thing. I wonder on Morten Gamst Pedersen if you have any memories of playing with him, because, he's become like an internet darling in recent years.
Yeah, I loved playing with Morton because obviously I went in at Blackburn as a left back, and I'd seen the goals that Morton was scoring and thinking, wow, I can't wait to play behind him and see what type of player he is. He was one of the hardest working players I've played with. If I went forward as a left back, he'd be stood at left back and already filling in for me, and I was thinking, like, this is an absolute dream for me. But then he had this hammer of a left foot, this one that could just create something out of nothing. He wasn't blessed with the most pace in the world, but he didn't need to because his left foot was so good. I was very fortunate. We struck up a great relationship both on and off the pitch. He's someone who I still keep in contact with now, probably not as much as I'd like to. Obviously, he's living in Norway. I live in England, but when we always sort of message each other every now and again and chat and things like that. But he was one of them players where give him half a yard, give him a sight of goal. My word, it was unbelievable. Wicked delivery, crossing from set pieces, but he also had an incredible right foot as well. And people didn't give him credit for that. But when he got the opportunity to unleash a shot on his right foot, my God, he could hit a ball. It was quite frightening. But yeah, we like you say, Big Sam had some great players in his time, and Morton was certainly one of those.